everyone. Welcome to my review of tonight's episode of Legends of Tomorrow, and of course, like I say in all my other TV reviews, if you haven't watched this episode, which is called The Magnificent Eight, if you haven't seen this episode, then please don't watch this review until after you've seen the episode. So, anyways, yeah, this episode is definitely quite the big step up from last week's kind of boring disappointment, which, in my opinion, instead of like the going to who would have thought that the future would be more boring than the Old West, but that was the exact opposite. I loved this episode. I just But first of all, we need to talk about that soundtrack because this soundtrack during the episode, the scores they used were amazing because I love the way they were able to change like the arrangements of like all the themes and the melodies and the scores of like of the of I don't know much about composing or soundtracks or what the proper term is, but like those same notes that you always hear during Legends of Tomorrow, the way they were able to arrange that into sounding like the Western music, that was so good. I loved hearing that. And of course, at first, I forgot that a certain character that I'm going to bring up was in this episode because all I remember hearing was I was just really engrossed in this setting, like when they first went to the saloon and you saw Mick and Sarah try to see who can outdrink the other, and then you saw Martin and Snart playing poker at the table. I really liked that, and then of course you can't have Western without starting a bar fight, so that was nice. And then, of course, we see Jonah Hex for the first time. And so I never saw that terrible movie with Josh Brolin and Megan Fox, and I never plan on seeing that stupid movie because right now we have our Jonah Hex. I forget the actor who played him, but I felt like that he did a great job of playing Jonah Hex. I never once thought, this is an actor playing No, that was just Jonah Hex. That's exactly what I saw, and I think he did a great part. And I like the way they tied it in, where he had a history with Rip Hunter, how he used to go back into the Old West, and how he felt like he never wanted to leave because he liked being there, being able to help people, being able to save people, and he had to just tear himself away. And I like that Jonah Hex has a history of seeing time travelers, and that him and Rip have already seen each other before, so they've got that established history and the established past. And I like the way that how Jonah's story tied into Rip's. And the other thing that I liked was seeing Dr. Stein trying to save that boy who had tuberculosis. And for a while, we never really got to see what they think. Okay, so when I start to ramble, I start losing, my brain just starts losing it. So anyways, I was talking about Stein and saving the boy with tuberculosis, and so like he wanted to use the newer technology to save him, and yet Rip just keeps saying no, don't mess up the timeline. You don't know what this is gonna do, and it went back into his inner dilemma of do I have to save people or do I have to make sure to keep the timeline safe? So I really liked seeing that dynamic. And the other dynamic I really enjoyed seeing was we got to see Kendra and Sarah ride horses and trying to discover more. And this is the first time where we saw like not I believe not since that episode when we saw Martin Stein. When we saw not Martin, yeah. When we did see the older, we saw the younger Stein, where the characters get to meet another version of themselves. The only other time we saw that was when I believe it was even in that same episode when we saw Captain Cold meet his younger self. So we got to see that in this episode too, where we got to see Kendra meet another one of her past lives in the 1800s. And I liked how she kept saying, "You can't save. Love won't last if she isn't in love with anyone that's not Carter," and that made her reflect on it. And I thought that would eventually lead in to more consequences, but no, kind of didn't. So they really are still pushing this Ray and Kendra thing, which is making me wonder just how much it's going to happen, because we know Hawkman is coming back. I mean, we already saw hints of that in the flashbacks of the 20s last week. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they're going to do with this. So yeah, and of course I really enjoyed seeing how much fun Ray was having with being the sheriff of the Old West, and how he kept using that southern accent and he used the duel, and not the duel, but he ran the Stillwater gang out of town. And so pretty much, this episode was fantastic. Other than that fact, with Kendra meeting her older self, and I thought that would play in more towards her and Ray's relationship. It didn't seem to have any impact on it that much. But that's like the only nitpick. Other than that, this really was a fantastic episode. And also, because I remember seeing that trailer when we got to see like the younger versions of of themselves. And, we got to see Sarah with bangs again, like back before she went on the Queen's Gambit. I was wondering, how does that lead up? But no, so it turns out Pilgrim, which is an assassin, or the deadliest assassin from the League, not the League, the Time Masters, is hunting down their former selves. So that's how just seeing, because I was wondering, how are they going to make that make sense? And now they're sending the Pilgrim Pilgrim, I don't know if it's the Pilgrim or just Pilgrim, but they're going to send her to kill the younger versions of themselves, and that's how we get to go back to like 2007. But then we saw 1990. I believe that was Mick as like a teenager. I still don't know, but anyway, last week was a letdown, but this definitely got me right back into loving this show again. So yeah, this episode was just great. Definitely in the top 5 best episodes of the season. So yeah, or maybe even the series. So this was a 9 out of 10. I love this episode. So anyways, I'll see you on next week's episode of Legends of Tomorrow. So yeah, I'm Mr. Gaming Guitarist. You can check out the N4G TV podcast that I host on the N4G TV YouTube channel, and I would appreciate it if you checked out my Patreon page and wanted to support me, help bring you guys a better content through supporting me on Patreon. I would appreciate it if you decide to do so. If you decide to become a patron over there. Anyways, that's it. Bye.